Let's transition to some NBA, and let's talk about the New Orleans Pelicans and Zion Williamson. The Pelicans are balling, ladies and gentlemen. They are playing some great basketball. The Pelicans beat the Suns for a second straight time over the weekend, 129 to 124 in overtime. For the Pelicans, Zion Williamson had 35 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and the Pelicans are currently first in the Western Conference. This is Zion Williamson after the Pelicans' first win over the Suns. This was on Friday night. This was Zion Williamson talking about the late dunk that he had at the end of the game. Take a listen.
Decide to put that one up?
That was a little out of character for me, but you got to understand. I mean, you can understand it or not. They sent my teammates home last year. I missed all last year. I got carried away a little bit. I admit that. But, I was in that locker room. My brothers were down because, the Suns sent us home last year. That's a tough moment to be a part of. So, in that moment, I got carried away. I admit that. That was out of character for me. So, if they was to do the same thing, I wouldn't have no problem with it.
And if you haven't, that was Zion Williamson reacting to the altercation that took place after his 360 windmill versus the Phoenix Suns Friday night. And before I get into this topic, I just want to say this. It seems like the Phoenix Suns are unraveling right before our very eyes. Like, I believe that when you look at the Phoenix Suns, this is a basketball team whose window has officially closed. It's over for the Phoenix Suns because we know Chris Paul isn't getting any younger. Chris Paul is past his prime. I love Devin Booker as a scorer. I think Devin Booker is big time. I think he's an elite scorer in the NBA. And I like the way Devin Booker scores the basketball at a high level. I think that Devin Booker can be a number 1 or number 2 option on the championship team. Now, DeAndre Ayton has been pathetic this year. He's been pathetic. He doesn't want to be in Phoenix. We know that he doesn't have a great relationship with Monty Williams. They got into it last year at the end of the playoff series when they got blew off the floor against Luka and the Dallas Mavericks. Monty Williams and DeAndre Ayton got into it, and Monty Williams had to bench DeAndre Ayton. And I was shocked in the offseason when the Phoenix Suns matched the offer sheet by the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers wanted DeAndre Ayton, and I was certain that Ayton was headed to Indy. And for whatever reason, the Suns decided to match that offer. It made no sense because I don't believe in DeAndre Ayton. I really, really don't. And I don't believe in this Phoenix Suns basketball team. The time has passed. They're going to trade Jay Crowder at some point this season. Cam Johnson is injured. It's a mess in Phoenix. I know their record isn't bad, but they are trending in the wrong direction. Let's switch gears to the Pelicans. The Pelicans, on the other hand, are trending in a very positive direction, and they're playing some great basketball right now. You look at the Pelicans and what they've been able to do so far during this 7-game winning streak. Zion Williamson, he's been playing at a high level. Zion Williamson is averaging 30 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game. He's shooting 67% from the floor. And this 39-5 over a 7-game stretch is the first time Zion Williamson has been able to do that in his career. and he's now in the NBA MVP conversation. Before that matchup against the Suns Sunday afternoon, his MVP odds were 50-1. Now they are 20-1. That's sixth in the NBA. So Zion Williamson is playing some great basketball. And this New Orleans Pelicans basketball team is a team that can go the distance in the Western Conference this year. I said it coming into the season that the Pelicans are sleepers in the West. They're sleepers. I love the trio with CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson. That's the best trio in the NBA. And last year, remember, in their first 13 games last year, Willie Green, he was the new head coach for the Pelicans last season. The Pelicans were 1-12 last year at one point. 1-12 in their first 13 games. They ultimately made the playoffs. They were the 8th seed in the playoffs. They lost to the Suns in the first round, but they didn't have Zion in that series. And you heard Zion in his post-game press conference talk about why he dunked at the end of the game, because he remembers seeing his teammates' frustrations after their loss to the Phoenix Suns. After the Suns sent the Pelicans home in the first round playoffs last year, Zion saw his teammates and he saw how frustrated they were. And Zion wanted to elevate his game, and he was sensational in these two performances against the Suns. I mean, I've never seen in a weekend series two teams who play against each other, one team be significantly better than the other team, the way that the Pelicans right now are better than the Phoenix Suns. Like, it ain't close. And remember, this came without Brandon Ingram. And the Pelicans have played 26 games. They've only had their trio of Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, and Brandon Ingram for 10 of those 26 games. 10 of their 26 games, they've had their trio. They're 6-4 of those 10 games. So if you're a Pelicans fan, you got to be excited about the direction that this basketball team is trending right now. You got to be excited about what you're seeing from this Pelicans team overall. You got Zion Williamson. He's averaging 25 points per game this year. You got Brandon Ingram. He's averaging 21 points per game. CJ McCollum is averaging 18 points per game. A great third option on a championship contender. I've always said that CJ McCollum, to me, he was more of a third option than a second option. In Portland, he was a second option on that Blazers basketball team behind Damian Lillard. But I think this is the perfect role for CJ McCollum. Perfect role. So this Pelicans basketball team is a team that you're going to have to keep your eye on as we get later into the season. They've been sensational. And I can't say enough about the job that Willie Green has done leading this Pelicans basketball team. Seriously. So far this season, their record at 18-8 has got them first in the Western Conference. Got them first in the Western Conference. And I know Golden State and their championship pedigree with the greatest shooting backcourt in NBA history, and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, is going to have something to say about the Pelicans. I know that if the Clippers can get back a healthy Kawhi Leonard and Paul George with their perimeter defense, is going to have something to say about these Pelicans. I know that Ja Morant and his great supporting cast in Memphis is going to have something to say about these Pelicans. But the way that the Pelicans are playing right now, you have to have them in that conversation for top three teams in the Western Conference who can make the NBA Finals. Yes, they're big time. And this is a market that honestly is more of a football market. They out there in New Orleans, and you're in New Orleans, and we know that that's really like a football town with the Saints and then the LSU Tigers. That's a football state overall. But the Pelicans are making some noise in the Western Conference for sure.